So with this one, the curly hair drawing, what I want to do to plan for this is, because there's overlapping, like here you can see this hair underneath this curl here. Because of overlapping, I'm going to work from the back towards the front. So I would draw this shape before I draw this shape, so that when I overlap it, I can just erase out parts of it, and it's just a way of getting organized with this. So I'm going to draw the light shapes and let the dark shapes be the negative space, just to get, so it's just like a simple drawing of just these shapes here, where it's lighter, where I can see it's lighter. So I'm going to start with that. Okay, so this took me like 2 or 3 minutes to draw. Simple lines, simple shapes. From here, now you might like think, what about these little strands? So we're gonna do something really cool with those, but I'm gonna show you in a minute. But first, now that I have this all planned out, I'm going to lightly shade in where I see all these darks and avoid the light shapes. So when I'm shading, I'm holding my pencil from the back like this, and this helps me to make some very light shading. I won't press hard. So in case I want to make any changes, it's not going to be hard to do because my pencil lines are still light. So this is a way of keeping your drawing alive, like you're not laying down the pencil too heavy yet, because things are going to shift around a little bit. It's not, some of these things are not drawn in exactly where they should be, but I just get started anyway, and I'll fix it later as I move along. So here we go. Let's shade in the darks. So I filled in very lightly all the darker areas, and at this point some of my lines are really sketchy, but I've been going really light. And to smooth some of these out, so it's like hatchings, to smooth some of these out, I can use my pencil, go in one direction, I could go in circles, and I can just go in the other direction and start to smooth out all these sketchy lines. And this is just like a matter of patience and taking your time to do stuff. So when you're doing these drawings, try to get yourself to slow down a little bit, and to get things kind of smoothed out and not look too liney. But at this point it's okay because I'm still working everything out. So from here, I've got some of my lights taken out, but I'm going to go back in and erase where I see my lights. So I'm kind of drawing back into it with my eraser. And for these little strands here, this is what we're gonna try here. We're gonna do, so I'm gonna erase out where that would go. And I'm doing it now because I wanted to be sure, because what I'm going to be doing next is carving into the paper and making like an indent where these little strands are going to go. And I just wanted to be sure I was putting them in the right place before I carve into the paper. So by shading, I kind of figured out some placement of things. So just to start with this, I've erased some of these lines out where I see these little strands. And I'm using this butter knife just because it was the closest thing, and I feel like everybody's got one of these at home and it's pretty accessible, but you can use anything like a tack or a pin or maybe a paper clip, something that you can get a fine point on, even like a pen that's run out if you have one of those around, but something that's got a point on it that will put a dent into the paper and not leave a mark. And you don't want to like scrape up the paper, you're trying to like just indent it. So I'm gonna do that now. Let's see how this goes. So some of these places where I erased out, so I'm just making these little lines, and then when I shade over it, the pencil won't make it into those areas. And really, I'm not doing like whole strands unless it's really light, and just for those little strands, not like the bigger, I mean, I'm not doing it for these sections, I'm just doing it for like a strand of hair. So I'm just gonna go in, just press down. And some of these spots that I erased out. All right, so I'm gonna keep doing this, and then I'll get back into the shading. All right, so I can say that carving into the paper helps a lot with these little lines. And as I'm working on this, I'm noticing that when I shade around the line, if I go this way, it'll keep showing the white of the line. But if I shaded along with it, it might fill in that groove, so to avoid that. And then once I do that with lightly, with light pressure, I can also go around the line and just avoid it, so I can keep it like really bright as I'm going in for darker darks. So like right in here, I can go in and just shade right up next to the line and start to press harder, because that's where the darkest darks are gonna be. So I like this, it's pretty cool. And like when you go to do your portrait drawing, you wouldn't do this amount of detail to the whole head of hair. You might do this to like a small area that you want to emphasize, and the rest can be just regular shading. But to get this kind of detail and like little bits of it is nice. And this is kind of fun actually, like even though it's just hair, but it's kind of neat to see this come together and figure it out. It's like a puzzle of shapes. So I'm gonna keep on going here, going section, one section at a time. Makes it easier. Okay, so I'm going to finish the rest of this off camera because it's, taking me a little bit of time here. But I can say that I do really like this technique, and as I go along, I'm noticing that there's some parts that I didn't carve into, so I can go back in, erase out, or even just like put a line in there if I see one. Because sometimes they're not like super bright either, but it could help me to figure out where lines are supposed to go. But anyway, yeah. So I do like going over it and then bringing it out by shading right next to it and just darkening, because I can see how dark it gets in here. So I just go in and darken these sections, and yeah, I really like doing this. So I'm gonna keep on with it, but I'll show you what it looks like at the very end. All right. Okay, so this is what I came up with. I can say that it is challenging, so it does take a lot of patience and takes some time. It's kind of like putting together one of those like 1,000-piece puzzles. Seriously, there's a lot of bits in here, and you can see that, it's not exact, but I use the image to help me create the hair texture. And it also looks differently through the camera than it does in person. So you just kind of gotta, take photos of it as you're going along, so you can see your progress. It gives you perspective. Step away from it, look at it from further away. But I did a lot of carving into the paper because I started to really like that, and I did a little too much over here, and I tried to cover it up, and it was not able to be covered up. So there's something about I was using